Welcome to the Startup Mavericks podcast from Berlin Startup School. And today I'm more than happy to welcome Martin Rohler, himself team and startup coach. And this is our newest episode about this exact topic. Welcome, Martin.
Thank you and hello, Tino.
Team and startup coach. Maybe you can quickly introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing on a daily basis.
What am I doing on a daily basis? A lot of stuff. Primarily I spend time with founder teams, startup teams, mostly when they have just met, when they're starting. So in early stages of their journey. That's what I do. So I see a lot of teams and a lot of programs like the one at Berlin Startup School.
How come that you're doing it? Because your background is banks, financial organizations, yeah. When did you decide to do something completely different?
Yeah, when did I decide to do this? So there are two questions in that. So I have two answers at least to that question. One is, at some point, I decided to do something completely different in a way. Yeah. So I have, as you mentioned, 20 years in organization building in development cooperation. So I spend a lot of time building financial institutions in developing countries. In doing that, I actually built up teams. Yeah. In where the terminology in that sector wasn't startup, but it was actually greenfield banks. Yeah, mm-hmm. But it's in a way the same. You go to the country, hire the first batch of people, create the first branch of a financial institution, and then build that up. And then 10 years later, it's 1,000 people organization.
Always, most probably.
All we do, it's developing country context. So you have more problems than just people, but the biggest challenge of building an organization is, of course, the people. I did that for almost 20 years, and then decided to change that a bit and work with teams in my home country, which is in a way something relatively new that I do. So I have been doing that for 3-4 years now.
And what was your motivation? Did you realize, wow, I had faced so many problems myself, or seen so many problems in scaling teams, or what was the original idea?
That's why I said two answers. Yeah, the first one is I do something completely different. Then the first step was I create a startup in the renewable energy sphere. We had an excellent idea. We had two different team constellations, two different sets of people, and both kind of failed because of cooperation issues, personality incompatibility, I would say. Things that you could have detected quicker. So in hindsight, I would say we wasted a lot of time. So and if you're a startup, I think once it took 7-8 months until from starting the work to concluding that it's not going forward, and then the second time it was 6 months. We were a bit quicker, but in both together is almost 1.5 years. It's a lot of time for a startup to waste resources and time and funds and everything. So in the end, the whole thing failed, mm-hmm. because the teams didn't work, not because the idea was bad.
Mm-hmm. So you're still waiting for the best possible teammate until today to restart?
No, not a way. So I kind of left that exercise after that and decided to work on that particular aspect of building teams, which kind of brings together the previous the experience and knowledge from the previous job, mm-hmm. That I had in organizational development with that own experience in the startup sphere, and that's what brings me here.
In your own specific case, why did the teams not match, or what was the biggest problem there?
So it's all around aspects of timing, money, and I would say dedication, mm-hmm. decidedness. So I think when you so in my case, I actually tried to identify founding partners that I didn't previously know, which is I mean in many successful,
quite common, huh?
That is common. On the one hand, there are many who do it that way, because you look for your co-founder by profile, but also, I mean, if you look around, many startup teams, kind of the personal relationship often has existed before. Friends from school age or whatever, or even more familiar relationships.
Which can also be a pitfall. I guess we're talking about this.
Which can be has positive and negative aspects, absolutely. But so in my case, I looked for people by profile. So I looked for technicians. In that case, it was related to renewable energy equipment. And so you basically, like a normal recruitment process, you look for profile, then you look for someone who matches that requirement. You look for someone who also has the space, money, and time to actually, go on a venture and be unsure about the success and the money that may flow or not. But then you have to also embark on the journey of getting to know each other personally, because it's a very, very important life decision to decide for someone as your co-founder. It's like almost like a life partner decision, I would say, if not more.
So we had time, dedication, then a general match on the personal level, right? So there are the 3 points.
Yeah.
So would you say that you definitely need to find, well, I would say when you would look today, you would also find somebody that you can go and have a beer with, or is this, or non-alcoholic beer, this is one of the most decisive things, or is this not so important? Because some say, whether it's on the investor side or on the co-founder side, I always need to have such a person level in which I could go for a drink with this person too. What do you think about this? Yeah,
I think the personal interaction is extremely important. That the chemistry between the people is even more important than in other comparable professional relationships. If you work for a large corporate and you have colleagues in your team, you usually don't get to decide who that counterpart is, or your boss or so. In the founder or co-founder relationship, it's the personal relationship is more important, because you get more under stress together. And in the end, the competencies of whatever the responsibility of the other person, of everyone in that relationship is, that can be learned, and is also usually not so known. What the required competencies are or will be along the journey. So I think, from my perspective, it all starts with, you mentioned the possibility of having a beer together is extremely more whatever. Share something personally that is not professional.
Highest one. So this is the most important thing before anything else? Personal level that you have a fit there?
I mean, okay, if I'm the finance guy and I want to create something technical, I need to make sure someone has the technical skills to do that. Of course, that is a requirement. I can't really hire a designer when I need electricity competence. So can't really disregard that. But in terms of highest priority, yes, I would say yes. So the personal interaction is definitely there. I would suspect that even in normal, in more ordinary recruitment processes, that also plays a very decisive role, although it's uncommon to say so, and but it plays a role, the interaction.
Do you think, also looking back at your own startup career, or when you wanted to start out something, that founders care too less about teams? Like they just want to find something as quickly as possible to kick it off, and then later on they get problems. So what is your experience when you get to know teams and their constellations? Do you have the feeling that this is the case, that some took their decision too fast?
So what I get a lot is teams where people know each other relatively well, but are too similar. I would say that is often
in the skills, or
is often an issue in terms of how their mind operates.
Okay.
Yeah, not necessarily in terms of skills, but how their mind operates, and then it makes it difficult to integrate other people. Yeah. So that's.
Do you have an example? Maybe?
Yeah, is the example would be the typical my school age friends that that maybe I studied with them along the way. We are all now IT engineers, 4 of us, and we want to create an enterprise. We all operate alike. Okay, that you have a diversity issue. That comes into play. Or people who are in personal relationships or siblings or whatever. People who share a very long personal history. Then know each other extremely well, for that reason, but integrating other people, transforming that relationship into a really professional relationship that is also open enough, to allow others onto the professional level. That can be a challenge sometimes. That's what we get for people who have recently met. That's really a completely different category of teams, and also a different category of challenges. So now we have to find out if we kind of click, if we kind of operate together well. It's a different set of challenges.
How do people find out if they click?
Good question. Very difficult question. I mean, what we have developed is a bit what we do in the coachings is a bit trying to kind of formalize that process a bit, support that process a bit by detecting areas that are potential conflict areas between 2 personalities, and thereby kind of make sure that at least the team is aware of where issues could come from in some distant future. You usually have the problem that it all starts from euphoria. So in the beginning everything's great. Everyone's happy. It's honeymoon. Especially when people don't know each other for a very long time or haven't known each other for a very long time. Then it's all it's all very positive. But there will be times when the system hits stress, when there is resistance, when there is frustration, when the whole system comes under stress, and that is where the conflicts really then break out, and where you get to know the people. You can't really artificially create that. You have to go through the experience, and that's where we try to kind of early on detect where the potential issues could be, to make the teammates aware. Okay, this is where we are different. This is and we can kind of build that into our daily routines or work routines. We have to be conscious about. We have to understand the reactions of our counterparts and so on.
So at the moment you're developing a software, correct? That is also detecting these kind of potential conflicts, so that founders are sort of prepared for these conflicts. And as you said, it seems to me as some sort of leadership empathy that you have already, or that you are sort of prepared to have it throughout the journey, rather than experience quite late what's possible or when conflicts arise, right? Do you really think that in the long term any software can detect it in such a good way that in the best case you will not have any conflicts at all? Should be the goal, right?
No, that's not really the goal. It's, I mean, seriously, So the system that you mentioned is basically a set of questions that assesses, personalities and then relates one score of one person to the score of the other person, and then tries to derive where potential, the potential conflicts of areas of conflicts are. If two people are extremely driven by leadership, extremely have very strong motives for leadership, then that might be an issue between the two. If one places a lot of importance on money and the other one doesn't, maybe a long-term conflict. These things, we don't really assume that conflicts can be avoided. That's also not the objective. It's really more consciousness and awareness raising. About this is where we could potentially hit a wall or have issues together, and we can kind of structure our cooperation around that to avoid not the conflict itself, but inefficient and emotionally negative experiences with that. So really more a constructive cooperation tool than to avoid. We also don't work with that partner also.
Okay.
So it's it's in the extreme case you can have that where, I mean, some people are just extremely different. So we don't do it. But for the most part, it's really advice on how to structure cooperation and how to deal with my counterpart.
What are the most obscure, funniest, craziest constellations that you have ever, or conflicts that you have ever experienced, and how were they solved, or were they actually solved?
So you often have things like so one of the things that we measure is risk aversion. So it's assumed that risk aversion, it's risk appetite, to say it alternatively, is something that is mainly personality driven. It's not, it doesn't really depend on anything that you learn or so experience, of course, but and it doesn't really depend on what you're doing. So it's the risk appetite is a character feature in a way. Startup teams have a tendency, because the personalities, founder teams have a tendency to be relatively risk-taking. So you often find a high concentration of people in the same room, in the same enterprise, that have high risk appetite. And that could be, that's good in the beginning to basically have the adventurous mentality to try something. But in the medium to long run, that can be harmful and even dangerous for the existence of an enterprise. So basically, from there, maybe if you hire the third or the first the finance guy that you hire, or someone who makes sure that the accounts add up in the end, should have another complementary profile.
Also balanced, then.
That sort of thing is often derived from that.
So don't hire too many risk-averse or people who are with the same mindset. So you're saying that it's good that at some point, maybe even from the beginning, you have different point of views.
Don't hire people who are don't hire only people who are exactly like yourself. Exactly.
Okay, that's a good point.
Kind of a pitfall.
And I would like to get also your recommendation on two scenarios. One is, I'm a solo founder myself, for example, and I have a great idea. So can you recommend what kind of person I should look out for, and how should I approach it when I'm alone and getting somebody totally unknown?
Not sure I can fully answer that with relevance for all cases. So it really depends. So solo founders, I don't know if the Berlin Startup School takes solo founders in a program. Many programs don't. Many programs say solo founders too high risk, and the statistics are clear.
Yeah.
So
and the Accelerator also, we just take teams, but for other programs,
okay.
we do take solo founders. Yeah.
Okay, so so solo founders are often an own category in a way, and it depends on what the business is and that makes sense or not. Yeah, but if something is to be developed. Where it is not clear, I think the constellation of two people is just more likely to create any kind of balance, in a way.
So not the right person, not the right mindset should definitely be different.
No, so far the perspective was, two people are better than one.
Okay, well, yeah.
So
really often, at least.
And of course, two people are better than one, assuming that they are not completely alike and that they will together arrive at something else. So so I think diversity is king in that in that respect. Now, diversity is king is something that is common wisdom in team development, but it also depends on how much diversity. So how diverse do we want to be? There is a kind of a cutoff. If you want to see it technically, a kind of a cutoff value or cutoff discrepancy between two people. If it's too far, the stretch is too far, then it's maybe more too difficult to harmonize. And it also depends on in what respect. So we kind of had risk aversion. Clearly a balance is good. One a bit more risk prone, the other one not. There are other features, character features, where that is. Monetary motivations. It's better when people have both more like targets. Regardless of where they are. But it's better to go on more like. So there isn't really a one size fits all response to that.
And last but not least, a really special scenario where I would like to hear what you recommend is when, for example, people are in a relationship or when they are best friends. Is there something that they should be aware of, or how can they reduce conflicts, or is there anything that would increase their chances of being successful in a really special situation like this?
I think, first of all, knowing each other better is superior than to knowing each other not so well. I think that kind of counts as a general rule. The challenges that relate to that are more to when you have very heterogeneous sets of relationships. So you have in a founder team of 4. Last week I had one of 5. 3 know each other quite well. From school times and years back. Having done other startups before, other projects before, and then you integrate other people. And that kind of heterogeneity in a founder team that are then supposed or assumed to be theoretically on the same level with the same number of shares. So you have all of the things that relate to fairness and formality and informality. So formally everyone's on eye level, but informally one had the original idea and it's his baby or her baby. So I think when the teams get a bit larger, that heterogeneity plays a big role. And sometimes when people know each other well, or are a married couple, or life partners, or whatever, or date back a longer time, then it becomes difficult for others to be that. Maybe one. If I have once worked in a bank in Africa. I won't say which country. We were a management team of 4. The top 2 people, or the top guy, and the other 3 were theoretically on the same level. But the operational manager were a couple. So we came back on Mondays to office to kind of guess what the strategy discussion on the weekend in their kitchen was. Can be a bit challenging, that kind of thing. So private relationships is a good thing, but I think the requirements, kind of the challenges that teams have for the people who are in that relationship to integrate the others and make sure that they're not excluded. That I think there is a lot of consciousness around that can be developed.
So last but not least, I have a question where I would just like you, from your point of view, to decide is, would you recommend founding with a partner, yes or no?
Absolutely, yeah.
You would?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
With a life partner, you mean?
Life partner. Yeah.
Yes, I would. Yeah, so yeah, I would never, say don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just about it's the consciousness. What I find a lot is there is a lot of comfort derived by founders from the fact that I know my co-founder and I kind of blindly rely on him or her.
So even friends then,
which is great.
Friends or love relationship can be anything.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But if you're trying to build a growing enterprise or even a fast growing enterprise, the challenges come when you integrate the others. Yeah, I think that's where. Of course, and then there is the risk of mixing private and business, but I think most of people that I've seen are just good enough in separating that.
Interesting. I can just conclude that I started building the school with somebody else who I studied with, and it didn't work out really well, and unfortunately then we were even not friends anymore after we departed. So that was a risk, and I personally would not do it again anymore, because for me it's more important to have a friend rather than a great business idea that I work with this person on. But I also have to admit that we were not friends for years or so, right? We had known each other for a few months maybe. But this is what I personally concluded. To me, it's no idea in this world is it worth to lose any friends. And everybody needs to be aware of the risk, because if you fight then over something that you didn't see coming, then this friendship might be over if you cannot find common ground.
So if you separate, on that journey professionally, the likelihood that you separate on the other level as well is large, of course. On the other hand, I think what that shows is that even though you know each other previously, you still have to go through the exercise of making sure that you actually share the same vision. Right?
So that's maybe an important thing, right?
That is,
no matter who is joining, they should know where you are heading to in the next 10, 20 years, right? Right.
So I'm not familiar with your example, but there are classical reasons why partners then fall out after X number of months or years. So and it often dates back to the original idea of what did I expect? What were my original expectations with this associated with this venture? Sometimes you have issues like, somebody's private situation or financial situation for other reasons than related to the business changes, and then you can't really be in that situation anymore. But more often it's related to the original expectation of what we were trying to achieve, and then you come back to things like, I wanted to do this just for a couple of years and try something out, and then I wanted to move on. And you wanted to move on. We wanted to spend our lives together professionally, right?
Idea,
So you often find quite deep-rooted discrepancies on the original idea, related to the original idea.
And I can agree with this, because we didn't have a common vision on that, and then we realized it quite late, that we imagined to go into a totally different direction with the school, for example. And this was the root of all the conflicts that came up later. So with all the business idea that I had been working on after that, and still when I'm working on something new, I'm trying to make sure that everybody is on board, right? Similar, like you're saying, that you have different points of views on a topic, that people do have the same values, and in the very end, it's totally fine if you're not friends and you find somebody that has the skills that you're lacking in the best case. And I do believe that this mixture is increasing the chance of success.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I would fully agree. I think there's one aspect that we haven't touched on yet, is the kind of fallback. discussion. Yeah.
What do you mean exactly by that?
It's basically we all assume when we create something that it will work, right?
Yeah,
it's very important. That
always the best idea.
That we believe that this will work.
Yeah.
So it's always a bit critical to touch that. It's like life partnerships, but it's still very helpful to spend a bit of time to think, okay, what do we do? What will happen if this goes south? Yeah. How do we separate? Yeah, we don't want to separate, but how do we separate if it's necessary? And I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, like for any kind of founding team, but particularly when there is a previously existing private relationship involved as well. So kind of to protect that layer.
With an unemotional topic like contracts, right?
That sometimes is very complicated. I mean, then you have it's like I don't know if you have experience with inheriting stuff or so, or inheriting to some other.
We have any scenario in our contract.
So when it gets when you want it legally sound, then it's usually a costly issue, and then at some point there is often then the question, okay, we're now spending money on the possibility that we may fail. Is that a priority? Probably not. Yeah. So, but the understanding, regardless of whether you put it into a contract or not, the understanding and kind of the agreement on a non-formal level, I think, is very important.
I also believe that in the very end there should be a level of trust. And then when you've reached a certain level, you should be aware of all the consequences. And hopefully you are soon enough, sooner than later, aware of any consequences. But it is totally fine, in my opinion, to then create these kind of contracts. Surely not from the beginning. That's not something to focus on. The product market fit, for example, is one of the most important things, rather than any contracts, finding it out whether it's worth to pursue the idea. But then later on, surely writing down, what happens if, because otherwise you might have the wife of your co-founder as a shareholder if something happens to him or her. So unfortunately, that's also the truth. But brings us to a totally different topic that we hopefully cover in another episode. Thank you so much, Martin, for describing the important things when working together in teams, the potential pitfalls, what to take care of. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
It was a pleasure.
Pleasure.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.